So this seminar is in order to prepare folks who are going to be attending the first ever maker-themed startup weekend at the Columbus Idea Foundry. This will be June 23rd, 24th, and 25th. And if we invite 150 folks into our workshop and tell them to make stuff, that might be a bit of a challenge. Instead, what we've decided, in conjunction with the Startup Weekend team, is to provide access to our laser cutters, to our 3D printers, and to a number of our mentors, experts, and staff to help people take their ideas and realize them. This way, we're going to see if we can help people create prototypes within the 54-hour startup weekend and hopefully prime the pump on some inspiration. This seminar isn't going to leave you an expert designer or an expert fabricator, but should hope to inspire you about some of the resources that you can use to design prototypes for that weekend. In the same way that if somebody tells you the phrase 3D printing, you might not know anything technically about 3D printing, but it might inspire you to think that, oh wait, maybe I can print something out of plastic if I can design it on a computer. So equally, that's what the purpose of the seminar will be. And we're going to go through a few of the things that inspire me. My name is Alex. I'm the CEO of the Columbus Idea Foundry. I'll talk a little bit about my philosophy on making, why makerspaces are important. I'm going to show a few great things that are made here, and ask some questions of the audience. I'd like to be able to tailor the next talk based on feedback from folks who have seen this one. And then we'll probably do a few demos on design for a laser, design for a 3D printer, and even some Arduino. So this is a bit of my philosophy on making. Years ago as a kid, I was deeply inspired by movies that I had seen that depicted visions of the future where robots could do our bidding, machines could make nearly anything we wanted, and software was more than a fancy calculator. It was actually something that could help ideate for us, help us create. And actually, I think we're living in that world now, and I'll explain why over the next few slides. I call YouTube the world's university. In essence, information is free now. You can watch classes on art history to artificial intelligence, either informally through YouTube or more formally through online massive open courses like Coursera, edX, and more. But you need more than knowledge to create something. You need a design. It used to be that you had to pay thousands of dollars for expensive CAD software. Now, legally free, powerful, practical design tools are available to anyone with a laptop who can download them. So Autodesk Fusion 360 is a great tool. Inkscape is a great vector design software program. SketchUp, Blender, and more. So in essence, design tools are free now too. And once you've created that digital design, there are machines which will create those things for you out of metal, wood, and plastic. There are computer-controlled mills that will carve things out of all sorts of shapes. 3D printers that can print more than just a single component. They can print a whole assembly at once. And laser cutters that will make short work of wood, plastic, and more. So digital prototyping makes making easier. And it used to be that if you wanted funds to start a business, to buy materials, to buy tools, to create a website, you had to compete with a lot of people from one source of money, whether it was a bank for a loan, whether it was investment or VC. But now, if you've got a camera on your phone, a decent sense of humor, and a good idea, you can make a 3-minute video and you can pitch it to the world. And we've been heartened to realize that the world likes to reward good ideas. We've seen billions raised through crowdfunding around the world. We've seen hundreds of thousands raised here at the Idea Foundry over a dozen different Kickstarter projects. So crowdfunding makes financing easier. So if you put all this together, information is free, design tools are free, machines will make things for us, and you can put fuel in your tank with crowdfunding. The bottleneck to taking an idea out of your head and holding it physically in your hand, I think, is access to these tools, a friendly and talented community of people to help show you how to turn the crank on this whole process, and a clubhouse to call your own. I think that's the heart of any makerspace. It's certainly the heart of the Idea Foundry, and we love being in the heart of Franklinton, down the street from COSI, where that was the #1 family science center a number of years ago, next to 400 West Rich, one of the arts centers of Columbus with 100 studios, 150 artists, a bar, event space, a restaurant, Land Grant Brewing, Rehab Tavern, up the street from Glass Axis, and about 1,000 new apartments for young professionals are being built with a high affordability component. So within a year, This is really going to be a startup neighborhood with science, art, walkable bars and restaurants, live-work neighborhood, and our brand of technology, education, creativity, and mischief that we like to bring. And we've learned also that it's important to market. It's not enough to have just a good idea. You really need to sell that. And that's not just cramming something down someone's throat they don't want to buy. It's storytelling, it's narrative, it's education. And we're glad to have companies like Infinite Impact that does high-def drone photography and videography to help us tell our story. Here's a snapshot of a number of our members at the Foundry. We're glad to teach an all-women's welding class that regularly sells out the day it's offered. We have a Girl Scout product design merit badge that Girl Scouts get with our laser cutter, and a host of designers and welders and more. Make Magazine is the champion of this tech DIY culture. And a couple of years ago, they hosted a few competitions to see which city around the world can bring the most people together to do things like 3D printing, electronics and programming, robotics. About 300 cities all around the world competed, from New York to San Francisco, London to Singapore. We tossed our hat in the ring on behalf of Columbus, and honestly, nobody was more surprised than we were when we came in first in the world. First in the world for 3D printing, first in the world for electronics and programming, first in the world for pyrotechnics, and second in the world for robotics. But we sponsored a high school robotics team that came in first in the world in their own 3,000 school competition. The final was in Sydney, Australia. So there's a hell of a lot of talent here. And here's a snapshot of a few things that people have made around the world. 3D printing isn't just for busts of Yoda or fun things. You can do wearable tech, you can do fashion. We've seen vacuum forming do amazing things. Laser cutting can make enclosures for things like virtual reality goggles. Our ShopBot can machine metal. And we love all sorts of electronics and programming too. And here are a few of the amazing things that we've seen built at the Foundry. Our friend Todd Perkins designed and built his own electric motorcycle, learning how to design from resources on the web, learning all the electrics from resources on the web, using our shared resource model of tools to make the barrier to access lower. He built his bike, and it spent a month on display at the Motorcycle Hall of Fame. So Todd's one of my favorite examples of someone with passion and a moonshot project who used our shared resource model and our community to help build something fantastic. We've also seen a number of our members build agriculture technology components. Friends of ours from Battelle designed a thresher that separates seed from chaff for farmers in Mali. This tripled their crop yield. It went from 30% to 90%. Really impressive stuff. Michael Cow quit his job at Honda to go wholly into his 3D printing company, IC3D, and now he's expanded to become the service bureau for the Ohio State University's Center for Design and Manufacturing Excellence. So he does all of their 3D printing. Really exciting stuff. Knockout Concepts is in the neighborhood. They're Franklinton's first tech startup, and they've invented a number of handheld 3D scanners that can do amazing things too, bringing 3D scanning to the masses. And we're also glad to have a good old-fashioned blacksmith shop under our roof as well. Really fun stuff. And back to the marketing bit, when we had our ribbon cutting a couple of years ago, we invited Mayor Coleman, and we made a metal ribbon and taught him how to use a plasma cutter to cut through it rather than the silk ribbon and oversized scissors. For this, TechCrunch called us the largest makerspace on the planet. We're grateful for that. But I think we're seeing something that is a little bit bigger than just a makerspace. We're looking at a building and a community and a neighborhood that take the explosively growing resources of the web, things like free information, free design software, the capacity to communicate with everyone on the planet, and we're adding to that a devotion to programming, electronics, app development, things like big data, IoT, user design, cybersecurity, and we're adding to that too a prototyping factory or a micro-manufactory, a place where we can prototype hardware components, we can make a few dozen or a few hundred units, and see if the market wants more. I think the collection of all of this is something bigger than a makerspace. I don't think there's a name for it yet, but we're growing into it. And I think as this culture spreads around the world, devices like the Ubi Slate, which is a $70 phablet, a phone and a tablet created in India, The state of India is so impressed with it, they're subsidizing 50% of it for all students. So in the next 5 years, 200 million students are going to be able to purchase one of these for just $35. You can make phone calls with it, you can browse the web, you can download and run simple software, and you can charge it with a crowd-funded project called the Gravity Light. This is a high gear ratio electric motor. You hang it from a hook on the ceiling, you suspend a 50-pound bag of rocks or sand, and each time you lift that bag, gravity pulls it down, and it spins that motor and generates clean light and electricity for an hour. So you can charge your Ubi Slate with that gravity light, and you can surf the web through programs like Google's Project Loon or Facebook's Aquila. Loon involves beaming Wi-Fi to the planet with a fleet of hot air balloons. Sounds a bit loony, that's why they named it Loon, but it's actually trialing in New Zealand. There's a great TED Talk about it. So you can conceivably be in a field with the sheep in New Zealand with your Ubi Slate, which you charged with your gravity light, learning from the web, downloading design software, and then you can even email your 3D files to printing bureaus, which will either send you back a 3D printed plastic component or a metal component. Companies can send back machined components. They can even send back an electric circuit board of your own design. So actually, you don't really need access to the tools locally. You just need to be able to design your products. I think as this culture spreads, we're going to see the pool of people who are designing all of our high-value products, things like telephones, cars, software. Right now, it's made by a very small fraction of the total global talent pool. If you add up all the industrial designers, all the software developers, all the engineers, maybe it's 1% of the planet, 50 million people. But as everyone has access to the internet, to a browsable device, and to electricity, I think we're going to see us grow into a potential pool of 7 billion educated and empowered innovators. And that's something that really inspires me. So the next portion of this talk is going to be, how do you make all these things?